Whether you're a parent navigating myofunctional disorders or simply curious about optimizing your family's health, the Myohacker Podcast is your guide. Hi, I'm Karindy Ong, a speech-language pathologist, myofunctional therapist, and mom on a mission to bring holistic health to you and your family. Together, we'll explore whole-body connections and integrative solutions. Please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review to help other families discover this podcast. The content shared in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast or its affiliates. This podcast does not provide medical, legal, or professional advice. Visit myohackerslp.com for free guides and access to my online community and courses. Now, let's dive into today's episode. All right, everybody, I am so excited. Today, I have with me special guest Keri Woods. She is the founder and certified health coach from Be Wholly Healthy. She is an amazing mama, business owner, and a dear friend. Keri, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Karindy, for having me on today. And hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Keri. I spend my days practicing whole health. And what that looks like is I partner with my husband and we train our children and we educate them each day from home. And when I have time and capacity, I joyfully lead a community called Wholly Healthy, where I offer one-on-one health coaching and I share the message of biblical whole health, really with a heart to help people experience healing in their soul and make body choices that are connected and whole. So that is what I spend my time doing.
Yes. And guys, she really, truly lives this out and is just an incredible beacon of hope and joy and peace. Like when you're with Keri, you're like, it's just very peace-giving. So I want to just share that. Now, we are actually here to specifically talk about your journey as a mom in this myofunctional world. So how did you first learn about airway development and when was that?
Yes. Okay. So I have 4 children, but I will highlight the story of one of my children throughout this conversation. And it was when he was 6 years old, which was about 2 years ago. And that's when Airway really came strong on my radar. And it was because I was finding when I would go in his room at night, he was heavy breathing at night, heavy mouth breathing at night. Sometimes heavy breathing during the day. At this time, he was also mouth breathing during the day. And he had some significant oral habits. He would suck and chew non-food items and have some drooling. And so sort of that whole picture, but it was the heavy breathing. It was like, okay, what do we need to do here to help him? Shortly thereafter this report, we started working with you as a provider. We also thankfully had some providers that did a CBCT scan and some extensive blood work so that we could sort of start viewing the present challenges through 2 categories. One being like a strong inflammatory response that his body was having that we would determine was related to infections and food sensitivity. And then the other category being him seeking this oral input for regulation. And I just remember at the time, like it was so helpful having providers kind of represent both of those categories and kind of say, let's work on both of these simultaneously. To help him. And so, so that was about 2 years ago. Now, I will note that about 6 months into my son receiving your myofunctional care, I started personally applying what I was learning and what you were training me and my husband in by, serving our son. And so for the last year and a half, I've gone on my own journey of just starting to I don't know, you could say peel the layers back, but start to consider all the ways I'm breathing, all the tension points, all the rest posture of my tongue. And I do the drills, I do the techniques alongside my son, and I'm seeing change. I had to share that for all these parents that are listening that we oversee our children's therapeutic journeys. And, so much can be incorporated or applied to us as adults, especially if it's like a weak area or a challenge area in our own lives. And so I've done
Absolutely.
it.
I mean, that, for me, that was the case. I realized I have crazy myofunctional issues after I initially started researching for my children. So I think it's very common. I know a lot of parents will be like, well, I do that. And I'm like, yeah, so it does come out a lot in therapy, and that can be its own journey because sometimes, we're ready to work on our children. We're ready to help them, but suddenly realizing, oh no, I have to do this too. It can be quite a bit. So since learning about Airway, what types of therapies, treatments, lifestyle adjustments, you mentioned food sensitivities, have you undertaken, and what has that looked like for your family?
So all of the above: therapies, treatments, as well as lifestyle adjustments. So what therapy looked like is we had already had a previous speech and language focus for my son, but we wanted to continue that because as we did so much to work on his tongue functioning and even structurally his jaw, we wanted his speech and language to stay a sure focus for him. So we did speech and language weekly the past 2 years, myofunctional therapy weekly, as well as we started working based on your strong suggestion, which has been life-changing for my son. We started with twice a week chiropractic care with craniopathy. And that was for 9 months. And then now we're doing that weekly. As far as treatments, so I already mentioned that it became clear that there were infections in his body as well as high inflammation that we were connecting with some food. He had a history of food allergies. So what we then started kind of unpacking was what other foods could just be causing an inflammatory response, could have a sensitivity to them, maybe within the food allergy family, etc., and just started pulling things out. We wanted to help his body on a cellular level get stronger to fight off these infections.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we did homeopathic detox, parasite cleanse, binder support with that. You introduced us to the Olympic RX, high dose omega 3s, Spectrum Needs multivitamin. We did 2 different 3-month segments of colostrum to really support his gut.
Mm.
And just this summer, we did the nutrigenomics genetic panel and started supplementing according to his genes. I felt like as mommy with a lot of support and training that this was an area that I had to show up for. I had to show up for what were we doing every day as it related to supplements and food. And then as far as lifestyle, yeah, so I wanted to eliminate any things that were bringing toxicity to his environment, his air, his whether it's clothing, bedding. So we got an Air Oasis air filter for his room, which is like just phenomenal tool. I got a couple more for our house because it's a really great product. But we got him a new mattress. We took out, as I already mentioned, we took out dairy and gluten. We increased time outside, movement, swimming,
Yay.
bilateral work.
Yes.
We brought in regular Epsom salt baths. We made sure it was fully dark in his room when he slept, and we integrated the Myo tools like the Replenish nozzle, the Myo Munchie, the Chewy tubes. But I want to say one thing on this that you're hearing a lot. Like this is a lot. But one thing I wanted to really make sure, and I continue to make sure, is that my son always kept a sense of power intact, a sense that he was powerful, even as we were taking these measures of intervention that were deliberate and sometimes daily. And a lot of it was involuntary for him. It was like, okay, I'm going to show up again. And mommy has another idea of like some way to just conquer this mountain,
Yes.
but really pouring in as much like confidence and love over him so that he could feel whole in the process because it's his body that we're fighting for healing with. And so collectively, I think it's just, and my husband, bless my husband.
I know these poor guys as they come along these Airway journeys with us. They're like, what is happening?
No, I feel like I have to like acknowledge him because though, he hasn't necessarily been the spearheader in all of it,
Mm-hmm.
I bring it all before him. I need his agreement.
Yeah.
I need his strength. And he might not have the knowledge or just not just flat out care about all the details, but he's my son's daddy. And
Mm-hmm.
I want him to be connected as much as possible. And so really everything I just shared reflects like me as mother and my husband as father coming into what is this agreed upon way of leading my son's life, his healing journey.
I just want to ask, how do you set up those conversations? I think this is, can we get a how-to on this?
Gosh. Oh, okay. Deep breath. Let me see. It's prayer. It's prayer. Okay. And I get into how my faith is incorporated into this journey, but because I want to present something that's not only like that I am authentic about how passionate I am about movement and
Mm,
progress, but also share the data and how providers and professionals have impacted me, the information that they've given me. That's where I always feel like I'm just sort of like fumbly, but I'm like, babe, this really matters. This
right,
thing,
right.
I can't explain everything to you about it, but it really matters. And so I think authenticity is
Hmm.
probably the thing that's impacted my husband most to
Hmm.
go, yeah, I don't understand all of it. It's going to require a lot of time and effort and monetary resources, but I'm going to do it because I see that my wife's heart is connected here and
Hmm.
she believes it's best for our son. And so I think that has been the connector piece where my husband he could hear. I want him to hear. I want him to hear objectively. I want him to hear and be a witness and tell me what he's sensing and
Hmm.
feeling, while being able to factor in the heart that I bring to the conversation.
That's so huge. That's so huge. I mean, I love that, guys. Okay, so prayer and authenticity, I think, so big on having those conversations because they absolutely come up and they need to come up, especially, like you said, these are commitments and life changes that you're making and everybody needs to be on board. And that's a balancing act. And I've just seen you do it beautifully. And just back to what you were saying about your son when he comes in, the empowerment that he has, even as we have worked on things, desensitization and increasing the difficulty of tasks, he always comes in with beautiful confidence and just, oh, his smile, it's so beautiful. And just a place of knowing that he is loved and he is whole. There's nothing broken about him. And that is so empowering because you can go into something and be curious and be open to it as a person if you don't feel like you're being attacked. And so it's just so easy for things to look that way. I know as parents, we can focus in on the problems, on what we need to fix, and that can be very disempowering for a child. And I love the approach you have had, which I can see and I hear the affirmations, like he will repeat them in sessions. And it's just so beautiful of this is where he is grounded. And even as we're doing things that might be a lot of nervous system input and require a lot of organization of the system, he has that basis of feeling secure that makes everything else for me as a therapist so much easier to incorporate and ask of him. So I'm grateful that you provide that for him. So what changes have you seen as a result of all of these changes you guys have taken on?
I love this question, and it really, words fall short of like describing the progress my son has made. And I said I would refer to prayer later. You know, we have covered his days and life in prayer. We have given him back to God each day, and with a earnest desire that God would help us remove all barriers and ceilings and limitations, and that my son would have the opportunity to become all that he was created to be, all that
Amen.
God
Yeah.
intended him to be. And so with that being the foundation of like how we go about all of this, the changes, I mean, you know, everyone listen to me. Karindy would say, "What are you guys doing? Like, what have you been doing?" You know, because she picks up on so much. And I'm like, well, we're doing this, this, this. And I guess, you know, we're praying, like we're believing for change, you know. And so I have to say that, I have to include that in my son's story, because yes, we're diligent people, and we're going to check the boxes, and we're going to do anything within our power to do, you know, tangibly to help him. But at the beginning and end of the day, like, we surrender the process, we surrender our ideals, we surrender our preferences, our frustration, our weariness. We just surrender it. And I get to know my son afresh each day. Like, I'm going to get to know you each day, whether everything changes or nothing changes from here forward. I'm going to somehow, right, in our soul, like, balance this journey of like, I'm going to get to know you as you are every day and love you. And I'm
Love that.
also going to like forge this path for you and like call you forward and usher you forward. And it's an incredible challenge, right? This is an art. I'm referring to something that requires a lot of us, and it's so refining for me and my husband. But I will go to the measure to say this approach feels like I'm doing right by my son when I approach it this way. And I can tell you all the language process, the tongue functioning process, the when I see his lips closed during the day and he's nose breathing, when I go in his room at night and I'm not hearing the heavy breathing, and you know, his oral hygiene, and how now, and I'm going to share with this, but we're incorporating an expander tool now. And so we couldn't do that 2 years ago. He was not ready for an expander tool.
Right.
He wasn't. But all the steps to now, as a collective team, we witness, okay, he's ready. Like,
Yes.
and he may not, he needs that assurance from us. You are ready. You can do this, you know, every day you can do this.
Yes.
But that's I mean, just the changes have been immense.
Absolutely. And I think something that has been so clear in his story, times when doors would close. Like, I would think this is the preferred treatment option. We're going to do this. And
yes,
talk about that for a second, because it's been so clear.
Yes, that's humbling. That's a humbling part of the, you know, because it's like, as a parent, I want to be a representative of action on behalf of my child. And there's a societal expectation that I would take action. And sometimes the action to take is being still.
Yes.
Sometimes it's waiting and discerning and evaluating and reconsidering and catching that redirect. And all of those things I just mentioned, like, they actually cannot happen if we're continuously in motion.
Can we just sit with that for a second? I want everyone to let that sink in. That was so beautifully said. One more time. We can't catch all of those signals, all of that information, if we're just going, and we're moving on to the next best thing. And we're, you know, we know, okay, the palate needs this. We're going to do this. If we just pushed, we would have missed what has been the best fit for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was so beautiful. I'm so happy you said that, because I want everyone to hear that, because there is so much pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, so much pressure. We hear all the things, all the health benefits of being able to breathe optimally. And so then, while we want that, sometimes that is just not where we're at yet. And sitting in a place without this, I just admire how you have been in these moments of waiting where, like I said, it was so clear, this isn't the way to go. We're going to wait for a little bit. And you have just been in peace, and I'm sure in prayer in those moments. And that, I think everybody needs to have an awareness that this airway journey isn't just smooth for many, but it also isn't, because sometimes what people will experience is they'll get to that point where there needs to be some waiting and they just bow out.
Yes.
How did you not do that?
So that's what I was just thinking as you said that, like that waiting can be an active posture. And I think we have to lead ourselves to not throw in the towel when we're waiting, to not throw in the towel when we like still don't have clear direction. And that is where we just have to own that responsibility to stay in the process. Accountability helps. I would be honest with you. I would be honest with my husband. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think this isn't looking promising, things like
Yeah.
this. So just allowing that accountability in. And then sure enough, maybe I had fully let it go. And maybe a month or two later, you'd say to me, like, all right, how are we doing with this? And it was just by beautiful design. Okay. All right, let's revisit. Let's revisit. And so if I tried to do that, if I tried to do this whole journey in isolation or by myself, I probably would throw in the towel.
Right.
I just would.
Thank you for, everybody here, it can be very hard, but that accountability piece and just even community, just not being in it alone is so huge.
Yeah.
So where are you guys right now in regards to his progress? And I'll just say in the family progress, because it's, as you've so beautifully highlighted, it's a family engagement, activity and focus. Where are you now and what's next?
I love what you just said. I just really believe this, that like the way that the family unit is made is like when a good thing goes into one person within that family unit, it just like it reverberates out. And, so every form of therapy, every treatment, every good thing that comes into any family member within my family, it goes out and searches its application point for every family member.
Yes.
It just does. I mean, we do our myo drills collectively.
I love that so much.
Yeah, so we do. So currently, with the son that I've been referring to, as I shared, he continues on with his myofunctional therapy, chiropractic care, speech and language, and we are a couple weeks into this work with this new expander tool. And so that's where we're giving our kind of like fresh, devoted energy to, is just him like assimilating this tool into his norm of his day. And we ordered an extensive food allergy and food sensitivity panel that we're going to be able to do through a skin prick. That's just little parents. There is an option for a skin prick option to this. Okay.
What is the name of that test?
So it's a P80 food allergy and sensitivity test. So we just want some current data as far as his body goes with food so that we can eat accordingly. And yeah, that's our present focus. And we're learning how to read, and we're learning how to write, and we're learning how to do math.
Yes. And he's doing so great. I love it when he gets the dry erase boards and he's going at it. I'm like, yes. That creativity just bursts through and I'm like, yes, I love it.
Yes.
So what advice do you wish you had heard, or what do you wish you had known before starting out on this journey? And what advice do you have for someone else who is just starting out?
This question deserves like a real deep breath, like a real deep consideration of all the factors, because we're not just talking about the last 2 years of Airway.
Right.
We're talking about the totality of his 8 years of his life. When I looked at my son when he was 2 years old, I had just a deep knowing within me that we had a complex climb before us. But I lacked perspective, experience, knowledge. And I truly was just in the moment with him, learning from one singular focus to the next of how to help him, and how to I think it was as simple as that, how to help him. And so looking back, I would have hugely benefited from someone, from you, but I would have hugely benefited from a provider, maybe by age 4 or 5, really informing me of what just this a broad knowledge of perhaps like sequence of decisions that would need to be made, or things that could be considered intervention strategies or pathways. Because that right there, like the stress upon decision making as a parent without that knowledge and perspective
Mm-hmm.
is just something that I know I would have benefited from them, and I think is so important to sort of celebrate celebrate someone like you who has done that for us, who has given the extra time, the extra thought to give invaluable perspective. I think, how do I want to say this?
I am so curious. I want to know what are some tidbits perhaps that gave you that perspective?
Yeah.
I didn't prep you for this. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah. So I think what is very clear to me is when a provider steps into a space that not only um, has the therapeutic role with the child or parent or both, but when they are willing to be used to release counsel, there is a comfort and a compassion that we have received. I'll speak specifically about you, Karindy. So when we met you, no one else was releasing relevant counsel into our lives on behalf of our son. And what happened, we not only had a bunch of implementation ideas, we were fortified to apply those pieces through the compassion and the respect and the comfort that we felt from you. You took the step, the extra capacity, the extra moment to release that counsel to us. We didn't pay you to do that. No one required you to do that. You released that because that's what you carry. And because it met us in our need, it just like exponentially increased us to have the strength to lead our son through this newness and into start operating with that broader perspective of what are the options? We are not helpless here. We are not powerless. We have enough understanding to make these decisions.
Absolutely.
And the more decisions we're going to make and the more that we remain teachable and learning on his behalf, we're going to just build and build and build. And that this is what I would say to the piece where you said any sort of advice is to all the parents listening or the caregivers listening. I think that mine and my husband's gratitude for every resource that we had when my son was 2 or 3 or 4, every strategy, every developmental toy that we were handed, gratefulness that we gave out, even in our lack. We were just like, we're lacking so much that we need, but we're going to be grateful for what's coming to us to help our son. I truly believe that has been a conduit for open doors for his life.
Yeah.
And now in the last 2 years, we've seen God bring a team of providers to all stand and bring a very unique talent, word of counsel to his life. So that is my encouragement, is to be grateful for every resource, every good thing, every good therapist that you have had. Be grateful and just charge your heart to be open to counsel, because you never know who is carrying something that you need. And I'll just speak, to you, Karindy, like you've been an invaluable asset to my family's lives. And not only does my son love and trust you as his myofunctional therapist, but you have strengthened us more than you'll ever know, And you've given us momentum that we will carry the rest of our time being their parents. So I honor you for that. I honor you for being a provider who does the more. And it costs you something. It costs you something to do the more. But I know that it makes your days rich.
It
Like
does.
It costs you something, but the return is
Yes,
rich.
exactly.
It's
yes, that I am investing that time and that effort. You're right, it does cost. And I know so many providers, this is how we see it, in that, yes, it's costing something, but we are making an investment and we get to see richly the reward. And I just do. I see it as a beautiful gift that I don't believe we will see all the rewards here. And that is my perspective, my viewpoint. But I think there is, for me, a higher purpose and a higher calling, and I want to be honoring in that. And that is just life-giving and joy-giving. So I know so many people are going to want to connect with you. They want to find out more about your coaching. They want to find out more about Be Wholly Healthy. Where do they find you?
Okay. So the hub for all things Wholly Healthy is our website. So it's www.bewholyhealthy.com. We'll probably link it or something.
Yes. And I want to point out it's BEWHOLLY.
Yes.
So be wholly, like you're a whole person, healthy.
Yes, absolutely. And then we have a subscriber community that's even closer proximity that I pour out coaching and free content to a couple times a month. And then for like weekly tips and inspiration, you can find me on Instagram. So yeah, I would love to connect, and not only connect as mothers, fathers, parents, but serve you in your health as you shepherd your young.
Absolutely. On that, guys, go follow Keri on Instagram right now, if you're not already, at Be Wholly Healthy. And okay, her Costco recommendations are just so good. Like, I love just follow what she recommends for like grocery shopping when you're trying to eat organic and healthy and it's so expensive. So many great tips. So just tactical right there. Thank you so much for your time today. I so appreciate it, and I cannot wait to hear how many lives you touched today. I'm so excited. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Myohacker Podcast. Remember, small changes can have big impacts on our overall health and well-being. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts so more people can learn about the show. Head on over to myohackerslp.com for in-depth resources, free guides, and access to my online courses. You can also join the fun on Instagram at myohackerslp for bonus content and updates. And if you have questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, please send me a message. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, let's biohack myofunctional health as myohackers who change the world through intentional action and connection. Quick disclaimer. The content shared in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast or its affiliates. This podcast does not provide medical, legal, or professional advice. Always consult with appropriate professionals regarding your individual circumstances. By listening, you agree that the host and podcast are not responsible for any actions you may take based on the information provided. We encourage critical thinking and urge listeners to verify any claims or statements made during the show. Your mental and physical well-being are important to us, so please listen responsibly and prioritize your health and safety. Thank you again, and Myohack on.